but they were putting a lot of pressure on me. I was being told, well, you're not a team player.
This is manipulation. The date is July 4th, 2021, and the 2021 NBA Finals are set to start very soon. It's the Phoenix Suns taking on the Milwaukee Bucks, and everything seems like it's being set up to be an amazing and memorable NBA Finals. Everything was going good up until a story breaks out. Rachel Nichols is caught on camera saying things about Mariah Taylor, and the entire internet flips, including myself. Within a month, she was completely removed off the face of the earth, and everyone forgot about her. A once popular face of the NBA was now completely wiped off the face of the earth due to a leaked audio. We never heard anything from Rachel Nichols because she had nothing to say about it up until the other day. Rachel Nichols just signed with Showtime Basketball, where she's going to be doing some basketball shows and I think some podcasts as well, if I read correctly. To announce her signing with Showtime Sports, she went on the All the Smoke podcast with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson to do an interview about everything that went down. And judging by what was said, it looks like ESPN is going to be in some trouble. In fact, this might have just opened up a whole other side that we're now learning about sports media. This is a part of a continuation of a series called The Dark Side of NBA Media, where I'll be talking about certain aspects of the media that no one wants to talk about. The first 2 episodes have already been up, where I talked about the whole Malika Andrews situation. Those videos are on a playlist, will be in the description below.
We can go back to 2019, 3 years ago. ESPN gave me a new contract. I'd already been there with the jump. And in the contract was that I was going to host the NBA Finals.
First thing we need to talk about is the fact that she was set to host the NBA Finals, which is actually going to be a very important detail later on in this interview. And she did insinuate that this was very public knowledge around the industry. I mean, she had a whole press release that was done about her, and it was in the contract. And as she did say in the interview, she's been covering the sport for over 25 years, and now she was finally getting her opportunity. Clearly, nothing is going to take this away from her, right?
What changed on how you felt in the workplace?
Well, things got complicated later that season. Y'all know it was 2020, right?
Yeah,
so
the world was
we had a pandemic.
Crazy spot.
There was the tragic murder of your friend, George Floyd. A lot of difficult conversations with this country looking itself in the face, seeing what had to change and be different. And the New York Times did an expose in July of 2020 on racism at ESPN and the lack of opportunities for people of color.
Now, in 2020, as far as I'm concerned, I wasn't really thinking about the opportunities. Of course, that was 2 years ago. Maybe I don't remember correctly, and maybe people weren't getting opportunities. I will say, though, for me during that time, my biggest concern wasn't really, oh, they don't have enough black people, or they don't have enough Mexicans, or things like that. Look, I don't care if you're black, white, Asian, Mexican, whatever the hell. If you're good at your job, you're good at your job, and I think you should keep it. I don't think just because something happens in the world that now we have to force these jobs to people that maybe they don't deserve it. Now, this isn't me saying that some of the hires they made for straight up just for diversity and just for PR weren't good hires. In fact, I will say most of the people that ESPN has brought have been very good at their jobs, I would say, in a general aspect. Obviously, we have some people who we really don't like, and that's our own opinions, but generally speaking, when it comes to their job of covering the sport, they're pretty good at it and have a good track record. But then ESPN is now trying to sway to the public, and they want to create diversity and honestly give what, in my opinion, is a very disingenuous opportunity.
And the executives at ESPN said what I think people would expect, all the right things about we'd like to give more people more opportunities, we're continuing to grow, all of those things. And around the same time, I got a phone call asking me, would I step aside for Maria to host the NBA Finals and have me go back to being a sideline reporter. And they stressed it was my choice. They weren't telling me to do this because it was in my contract, but they were putting a lot of pressure on me. I was being told, well, you're not a team player.
This is manipulation. There's no way around this. What they're saying about, oh, you're not a team player is straight up manipulation, and I cannot stress this enough. So because of your diversity record, you're now taking away an opportunity from her and giving it to someone else who maybe she does deserve it. Back in 2020, I looked into Mariah Taylor, and she actually does have a pretty successful career in sports. But again, I want to stress the word of the day, which is disingenuous. this? Why now are you giving it to her? If you thought she deserved it, you wouldn't have gave it to Rachel Nichols. You would have gave it to Mariah Taylor. And who knows, maybe it was a close battle, but they said, you know what, Rachel Nichols has more experience, we're gonna give it to her. But then don't take it away because of stuff that happens in the world, and now you're trying to force this narrative that you guys are so positive and that you guys absolutely care about diversity. You guys do realize that ESPN doesn't give a fuck about diversity, right? It's solely a PR thing to appeal to the public, and I'm not trying to sound political like that, but I'm starting to realize as time goes on, things are getting a little political at ESPN. And look, it's no secret that ESPN was pushing for Mariah Taylor to do the job as hosting the NBA Finals. But then don't say, hey, it's your decision, but you're not a team player, trying to manipulate her into not taking the job. Either force it out of her or just say, hey, you know, we'll give it to you next year, but this year we really want to focus on giving opportunities. But then as this interview goes on, you start to realize a pattern, and all of a sudden everything makes sense.
And at this time I was also getting ready to leave for the bubble, and went down there, and it was a different set of equipment than I had been using to broadcast at home. So my very first day, I'm there, I'm using the new equipment, and I didn't know that if you leave a particular app running in the background, that the line from my hotel room, looking into my hotel room, to Bristol would stay open. So I thought I was done for the day. I did the things you would do on your first day in a hotel room. I spent hours unpacking, called my husband, talked to my kids, called some friends, called my doctor. And unfortunately, that entire time, nobody back at ESPN told me that there was an open line to my hotel room and anyone who looked at the feed could see me. No one shut it off. Decided, oh, she clearly doesn't know she's being watched unpacking or doing all these other things. And at least one person decided to just sit and watch and started spying on me like I was their own personal television show.
Are you starting to see what I'm seeing? So she's using new equipment. Of course, it's the bubble. The area is now completely different, but no one told her that she was being watched. Mind you, she was getting pressed at ESPN for not wanting to give the job to Mariah Taylor. Now she's in the bubble and she's being watched by someone. Mind you, she's in her own hotel room. She should be able to be in her own hotel room and say whatever she wants. When the story first broke, I honestly thought she was like in a arena, or she was like in a hall or whatever, you know, recording stuff for ESPN. I had no idea she was in her own hotel room. Also, ESPN better hope and pray to God that she wasn't changing or nothing, because yeah, that's gonna be a really bad lawsuit, just saying. So now it's starting to make sense what actually went down. But wait, this timeline doesn't add up. I told you guys the story came out in 2021 during the Suns and Bucks finals. Then why am I talking about something that happened during the bubble? The timeline just doesn't match, right? Well, this is gonna explain everything.
And unfortunately, I think there were still some people who had bad feelings, and they held on to this tape for a year. Just kept it in their pocket. And then when there was a point they wanted some leverage with their own situations, they fed it to the press.
So you mean to tell me they've had this tape for about 6 months to a year, and you're now releasing it because you want leverage? ESPN, you crock of shit. So you mean to tell me someone at ESPN was salty that Rachel Nichols didn't step down for Mariah Taylor, and now you decided to leak this, knowing the storm it was gonna cause, knowing that it was gonna affect a lot of people? ESPN held on to this knowing they would have leverage, and they decided to save it for the perfect time. And honestly, it worked. I saw no one siding with Rachel Nichols, which I honestly feel bad for. Every single person basically shunned her from the NBA community, and we heard nothing about her until now. So now we're starting to see when ESPN forces diversity, it creates even more problems. And like I said, this just opens another door for way more things about ESPN that no one wants to talk about. Now, Rachel Nichols honestly has a believable story because she never really had a history of being problematic. She did do that thing to Derrick Rose where she brought up a rape case allegation that happened a while back, but wait, Malika Andrews also did the same thing. So either both these people were just being problematic, or ESPN is doing something that they're not telling us. But that is for another video.